You're listening to Chillworthy,
a podcast where two best friends discuss mysteries, murders, and anything in between for your enjoyment.
So if you're ready to hear some chilling and unsettling cases, you're in the right place. Happy listening. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chillworthy with your host, Brent and Talia.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good. So, have you been reading any books?
I sure have.
Okay, well, lay it on me.
Not much. I mean, I have been reading, but I am very proud of myself. I'm delayed because I started several and quit.
Oh.
And, you know.
Good. I think that's great.
I don't feel great saying it, man. But, you know, that rule that I mentioned last time about the 50 pages, I think I even touched on this last time that I had started some and then quit before I even got to that point. It kept happening. So.
Because you deserve to read books that you enjoy.
And don't waste time.
Right.
Because
you're not in school. Nobody is going to say, hey, remember that book that you picked up? When did you finish it?
Right.
Exactly.
You're right.
I know.
When you're right, you're right.
I know.
So the one, which actually I was listening to one of our episodes the other day. I stopped listening to us for a while and then I went back to it. And I don't even know how long ago this was, but it was when I got this one or was thinking about getting it Wild Dark Shore, but I called it Wild Dark Coast and it's haunting me big time. So major correction, it is Wild Dark Shore. Oh my God.
This is the Scottish thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there were two No. Sorry.
Not the one with the beautiful landscape.
Correct. No.
Oh, okay.
This one is an island off Antarctica that's fictional, but it's based off a real island that exists in that area. This is a dystopian, climate change, world is changing, very sad. Oh my God. The imagery and the animals that live on this island and the plants, and then one of the mainland where these people were originally living is Australia. So then they started talking about animals in Australia and plants and this one type of tree that is real and was apparently around when dinosaurs were around. I was Googling all of it.
Dinosaurs.
Checked out. Oh my God. It was just incredible. It was so sad. So sad. So sad. I cannot emphasize that enough. Trigger warnings out the wazoo. The wazoo.
Yeah.
So if you're going to read it, definitely.
I shan't be.
Well, I'm talking to the children.
I know.
You won't. But, mentions of sexual assault, suicide, multiple drownings, a lot of parent-child themes, just very heavy. And definitely look into that before you start. And then speaking of, wildly sad, The Women by Kristen Hanna, which I've read books by her before. She does a really good job. She doesn't only write historical fiction, but that's a big, I know you don't like it.
I didn't say that.
Well,
my face
a sour face.
Well, I was just thinking in my head, so when I'm looking for a book, it'll be fantasy, horror. What do you look for? Just sad? You just say to Goodreads, sad? Or
No.
what is it?
I look at what just came out. And then if you go on the website, I don't know if the app does this too. I guess it does. It must. It'll give you 4 or 5 recommendations based off what book you're checking out and read. Not reading, but reading the description of.
Right.
So then, I go on this.
So you're just swinging from tree to tree to tree of sad books.
Perfect analogy, yes. And then it's wonderful. They know what I'm after.
It's one word, yeah. All right. So anyway, The Women, sad,
oh my
depressing, historical fiction.
Yes, it's about the women, the nurses in the Vietnam War. And I know nothing about the Vietnam War. Ooh, I'm 2 seconds away from finishing this book. I will be finishing it tonight, and I cannot wait.
All I think about is Forrest Gump.
Yes, good call. I always, whenever, as you know, this comes up, I always immediately think of your mother and that she hates this movie. I can't think of Forrest Gump anymore without that fun fact.
Yeah, it's been a long
fact.
time since I've seen Forrest Gump.
Oh my God. It's on every now and then, and I always put it on. It's a very nostalgic movie for me. That was on a lot when we were kids.
Yeah.
Well, not, when I was a kid, singularly. Not...
Well, when you were a kid, I was a kid as well,
right,
if you can believe it.
But I didn't mean we were hunkering down in the living room watching.
Oh, no,
Forrest
not
Gump
together. No.
Right. So,
Under a blanket tent.
right, a fort.
Which I think that would have been nice, to be honest.
For that movie, hell yeah. During the monsoon scenes.
Jumanji would have been nice to watch in a tent as well.
Hell yes. God, that's such a good movie. One of my faves. So anyway, that's that.
Yeah.
So I've got to have something lined up once I finish this tonight. Now, there's one called The Bee Sting that I did check out like through Libby, but I haven't started it. Well, I read like 3 pages of it, but that's it. The author's from Ireland. It's a man. I forget what
The Dublin Martyr Squad.
This isn't one of those. It's not like no, but I mean like it's not a mystery or a thriller. Paul Murray is his name, and I've seen this book at bookstores. It's a big boy, so it's gonna be.
Did we see that when we were just out?
Oh, I'm sure we did. It's still out, and I feel like it was released definitely a year ago, if not 2.
Oh, all right. I thought maybe you picked it up, but I know you picked up All the Water in the World and whatever.
Oh my God. And so speaking of that, so when you and I, that's when I got it? No. Isn't that when I got it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a little bookstore.
Yes.
Yeah. So I now have not started it, and I don't think I can, because then it hit me a lot of similarities between Wild Dark Shore.
Yeah, I'll say.
But like even in terms of like it's a family and they're trying to stay alive together and blah, blah, blah. Like it's a lot of like central themes, it sounds like. But God, I want to read it bad.
And the reason you can't is...
Well, because maybe I'll read it next. Because I just read Wild Dark Shore. Like I sort of want to break
I see.
and read something different. And then, there's this climate change dystopian novel waiting for me. But I want to read it bad.
Well, I would still love for you to read Nosferatu.
I'm scared. What's that about again?
Oh, I can't even...
Just a little summary. Do you want me to look it up and I can read it?
Like we said, it's by Stephen King's son. And so it's like built in like a normal world like what we are in, but there are people that have like special abilities. They're very rare, and they keep it under wraps. And so this girl has a special ability she discovered it when she was a kid, that if she gets on her bike and she starts driving or riding, she can kind of go into this like trance state, and whatever she's looking for or whoever she's looking for, like this bridge appears out of nowhere, this like what's it called, covered bridge. She goes in the other side, she comes out where she wants to be, finding the object or the person or the place. So like
her great grandfather, like
sure. Well, if he was alive, yes. Her umbrella from first grade, yes.
Wait, now only if people are living.
Well, or I guess she'd end up at the cemetery. She's not a time traveler, is what I'm trying to say. So, but yes, I mean, if you lost your credit card yesterday, theoretically, you could do that. Like you left it, you were traveling. You left it an hour away. You don't know where it was, though. You could do that. So anyway, we're getting too bogged down onto her power, but...
Sorry, yes.
So that's what she can do. So she's one of these people. There's another person out there that uses, which I think you would like, actually. She uses, what's that word? Scrabble.
The game?
Yes. She has a bag, like a little pouch with all these Scrabble pieces.
The tiles.
Yes, the tiles. And she pulls them out and throws them out like runes, and then they spell out words, and she can predict things like that.
Well, this sounds delightful so far.
Right.
Do these people know each other?
Eventually, they do know each other because they're trying to stop the bad guy. And the bad guy is another one of these people with special powers, and he has this ability to... I guess created a pocket dimension, like a tiny little world that he can get to, and he steals children, and he
I don't know about this.
Puts them into this like special car that can go there. It's like a 20s style old antique, whatever those were. I don't even remember. But like the kind that are like a real long, like it had the real long
funny
front.
You're saying all of this because just when you said about how he takes children, it made me think of the Child Snatcher in Chitty Chitty Bang
Which
Bang.
I've never seen.
Oh my God. Just YouTube a snippet of The Child Snatcher, and so horrifying. And in that movie, obviously, I feel like are the cars, not Chitty Chitty Bang Bang the car, but the cars in that movie that were nice are making me think of what you're
I
describing.
want to say like a Rolls Royce. Am I,
car.
It is a car. Whatever this is a car. It's just an old fashioned, the kind that like
Oldsmobile.
the kind that like a chauffeur would drive around.
Town
Probably
car.
like in the 1920s, like a very rich person.
Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, yes, basically like that. Whatever that is the car that this man has.
We're not car people, if you have been able to deduce.
It's not our demographic. But so he steals children, takes them to a place called Christmas Land, but it's all sick and twisted. Like it's very gross, like
bloody.
Well, like the snowmen have teeth, and like the moon is up in the sky, and it's like looking down at you with this weird face, and it's just grotesque, and the kids turn into monsters. But this is how he keeps himself alive, basically, by feeding this little world.
Reading this.
My point is, she wants to stop him, and that's the whole book. But it is such a damn good book. So
you've said it for years.
I know, and I stand by it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I did just start a book, but I've barely scratched the surface, but it's, let me double check this.
Have you finished anything since we met last?
I don't know. What was I reading?
I feel like you said nothing, or you had several.
Well, then no. Oh, it's it's called Witchcraft for Wayward Girls.
That was there the other day when we went.
So anyway, yes, the Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. It's about a house that takes in pregnant teenage girls. I forget what the era is, but it's not modern times, and nothing's happened so far. She just got there. The main character just got there. There's a bunch of girls, all pregnant in different stages, and it's like this kind of desolate house out in the wilderness.
What country are they in? Is it England?
No, I think it's America.
Yeah. Well, report back. I've heard about that one for so long, but I don't know. Nothing ever drew me to actually start it.
Yeah. So anyway, but I mean, it's good for what it is so far, but it's not much. So,
right.
But I'm not turned off by it, so perfect.
Good.
Last but not least, I'm sure everybody's waiting with bated breath for my fun fish facts of the week. Da-da-dee.
Oh my God, that reminded me of the little seahorse in
The Little Mermaid.
Yes, with his little doily collar on. He's so stinking cutie.
So, the little facts about my platy fish that I have, because I've got about 6 of them. So they're live bearers, which means they just have babies, right?
No eggs.
No, right, no eggs. They just get pregnant.
Like seahorses.
Right.
Seahorses.
And that's it. And then they have them. They come in a wide variety of colors. Black, white, orange, blue, and like metallic, like those ones when they
shimmery.
Turn. Yes, very shimmery. Some are like, Dalmatian spotted.
Are they the ones that I always think remind me of Labradorite? I might be thinking of... Did you name the downstairs tank yet?
No, but I think you're thinking of like guppies, who are unfortunately not with us anymore. So...
Scratch that.
Yeah.
So this is strictly in Atlantica.
Yes.
Okay.
Peaceful. They're peaceful. Number 3. Quite peaceful, actually. Mm-hmm. Apparently, they're very easy to breed. It's supposed to only take 40 days from when you get them in a tank, which I'm coming real close to that time. So we should start seeing little babies swimming around soon.
Oh, like definitely.
Yeah. Because you can tell the female and male is apart, so there's definitely both of them in there.
Shit.
So now they're probably going to have like 40 babies to one fish, but I would think maybe like 2 would survive.
Yeah.
So, but...
Because other things are going to eat them.
Yes, probably. And that's why I was like, I'm not watching this too closely. This isn't going to be like a nature documentary.
No, rough neighborhood.
Right. I'm just going to be... I mean, it shouldn't be a rough neighborhood, but... when there's little tiny fish swimming around and bigger fish are swimming around, that's what's going to happen. So that's why I told you I just want it to be a natural tank, an ecosystem. Like you have babies, cool. If few of them survive, awesome. There's
Groovy.
There's tons of plants. There's tons of places to hide. So it's just, if you can do it, you can do it, and I'm rooting for you.
Right.
So, which I am. And then the last one is what I just said. You can tell the males and females apart because one of their little, whatever those, the fins, not the dorsal fin, but the fins on the bottom of their stomachs. The males are like longer and the females are like a fan.
Oh, interesting. So very obvious.
Yeah. Once they spread them out, like
Yeah.
sometimes they're close up to their body and then you can't really tell. But as long as they like have them in like their extended state, then that's how you know.
Sounds very
So, but I am going to run out of these fish facts, which I'm assuming people are going to be like, whew, because
Get out of here.
I'm getting out. I don't have many more things in the tank.
Well, maybe you could start a list of things you hope to acquire.
Maybe.
And do that.
I mean, I do have one more thing, so at least, but
I
anyway.
already leaked that, but maybe
You did, yes.
maybe not everyone cut it. I thought that's what
Or
we were
cared.
gonna be- Oh, stop.
So, all right. I guess we've hit the 15-minute mark, so I guess we're ready to go. All right. So today's case is the case of Tiffany Valiante. We're just going to dive in, I guess.
All righty.
Okay. All right. So this is the case of Tiffany Valiante. So let's imagine,
Yeah.
a nice summer night in New Jersey.
Oh, you know what I immediately think of?
I couldn't say.
The bugs.
Crickets? Yeah.
Yes, the bug sounds.
Cicadas.
Absolutely. Did you like the Wonder Years?
Not
Ben
really.
Savage,
No,
was that
not
his
really.
name? Yeah.
I thought it was a very depressing
I
show.
was just going to say, did you think it was Sid? Because it
That's-
sure as
I-
hell
it just-
was.
Yeah.
I loved it.
My father was like like when I was little. I mean, he would watch that all the time. I'm like,
Nick at Night.
it's not for me.
Absolutely.
It's not for me.
Block Party Summer.
I loved those. Bewitched Be Wednesday. Hell yeah. I Dream of Jeannie Thursday.
I was just going to say that. And then, no, wait. Wonder Years, those two you just met. Oh, I know. The Munsters.
Oh, Munster
I
Monday.
loved the Munsters. God, I loved that show so much. I remember vividly as a kid in the summer taking my bath, getting into my summer pajamas. My hair would still be wet. Sometimes my mom would braid it. Didn't need to happen though, doesn't matter, but still I brought it up. And I would get so excited for Block Party Summer.
I mean, hey.
You like what you like, you know? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wonderful summer memories.
I do. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that as well. I would sleep downstairs in the living room to watch like Bewitched all night.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't stay up all night, but you know.
Yeah. So back to the bugs.
Well, not really. You brought the bugs up.
Well, back to the summer night. Then.
Yes.
Fine.
So, so it's a summer night in New Jersey. An 18-year-old girl leaves a family party and never comes home. So that's what we're in for.
That's Tiffany.
Yes. So, Tiffany Valiante, she was an outgoing 18-year-old from Mays Landing, New Jersey. She had just graduated from Oak Crest High School, and she was 6'2".
Shit.
So she was quite tall.
At that age, too,
Yes.
you know?
She had a very athletic build, so she was talented sports-wise, sports ball-wise.
Right.
And she was kind of like a volleyball star in her high school.
Yeah. Was
So-
there a scholarship situation?
Yes, in fact, she earned a scholarship to play volleyball at Mercy College in New York.
Huh.
Which reminds me of Mercy Brown, the first
Oh
vampire.
my gosh, I forgot all about that episode. When you just said that, I'm thinking, I know that name, but I can't place it. That was a good freaking episode, man.
Yeah.
That was good.
I would like to do more of those, like, really historic
Vampirical.
something, yeah. But anyway, so she was really, really good at volleyball. She got a scholarship to Mercy College and she was excited to go. I guess she was already starting to text her future roommate about dorm decor.
But he likes that word. Be
No.
careful.
And looking forward to starting college that fall. So Tiffany was close with her family. She lived with her parents, as most 18-year-olds do.
Absolutely.
Diane and Stephen, and she had 2 older sisters. So friends had described her as the type of person who was always there to help and ready to find the silver lining in any situation.
God love her.
By all accounts, she had a lot to look forward to, which, there's a reason that I'm saying this stuff. She was excited about things. So she was planning summer beach trips and a Six Flag outing with friends coming up. She also worked part-time at a local Wawa convenience store.
Did you like Six Flags? Did you ever go to that
I
place?
I did go to that place. I mean, I liked all amusement parks until I didn't. And that didn't happen. I think once I started getting I've said I have like anxiety and stuff, and I think once I started getting panic attacks, the idea of getting strapped into a roller coaster, I don't like being able to not freely move. Mm-hmm. So that's not for me anymore, I don't think.
But as a kid, you definitely liked roller coasters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you?
I did, and then what sort of fizzled that for me? I still go on things, but not like I used to. Like I have some nervousness around it because of the motion sickness that developed.
I'm sure,
as I got older. Yeah. So, but it's I feel kind of hit or miss, but the idea of rides still excites me. I just wish I could handle them.
Yeah. I just don't want to freak out.
Right. Of course. My
Legit.
God.
I don't want to freak out.
Terrible place to be for that.
And this is something I've thought about many times because when I would like to at some point go back to Universal Studios. Uh-huh. Like the last time I was there was 2014 with my family, and we went to Harry Potter World for that one day, and we went on the Hogwarts ride, which was the best ride I've ever been on in my life.
Why?
Just fantastic. It was. It just brought all the movies to life. It was half 3D, on a screen, half real props, and you were strapped into this thing where it could turn you all these different ways. So you just kept going back and forth, and different scenes would come up and you would feel the dragon fire on your face, or the cobwebs, all of that stuff. Fantastic. But it was one of those rides where you did have to pull down the thing to go over your chest, because you were leaned over front ways and back ways and all that stuff. And I thought, what would I do if I was back at Universal? I think I'd have to go on it, but I would just pray to God that I did not hear that thing strap in and think, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here.
Shut the ride down. Right.
So anyway, that's that.
Yeah.
So.
What about water parks?
Yeah, I liked those too. Still, I'm still fine with them because you're not strapped into anything.
True.
So
a lot of steps.
No, absolutely. But just, especially something like family tubes, where the tubes are really heavy and you go up the wall. I freaking love that shit. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But again, you're not confined.
Right. Do you remember the time you and I were driving, and I don't know if it was for work?
I sure do.
You remember? You know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, absolutely I do.
And they were building this new water park resort, not totally close to us, but sort of. And you
an hour-ish.
Yeah. And you commented on it, and this was early on in the building, and I said, "Oh no, those are the garbage."
That's a new recycling plant or something.
Those are the tubes that they send everything through. Meanwhile, then it's a freaking huge ass water park in a couple months.
Well, that was very similar to when we were looking for a specific casino, and you thought that a carpet factory was the casino.
I don't remember that.
It was not, in fact.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So yes, she was planning to go to Six Flags. Like I said, she worked at a Wawa. So she did have a few, though, personal struggles. Oh. So earlier in 2015, she came out as a lesbian to her family, and her parents insist that they were supportive. But I guess through maybe a few interviews of classmates, it later was suggested that Tiffany might have been having a harder time with it internally than she was letting on.
Right.
So, obviously, I mean, I don't know how supportive or not supportive her parents were, but I mean, she was just dealing with things surrounding that.
Right. Even if they were truly supportive, I mean, she could have had other...
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So there were also like normal family tensions. Tiffany and her mom, they briefly had to go to counseling the year before to work through some like parent-teen issues, stuff like that. But very importantly, to make sure I state, she had no known history of mental illness or depression, according to her family. So, in fact, she was the friend who cheered on others and was described as upbeat and optimistic. A notable quirk, I guess you could say, or phobia, maybe, was that Tiffany was actually, she had nyctophobia, which
I've never heard of it.
Which is being afraid of the dark.
Oh.
So she wasn't going to be somebody who was just like wandering alone at night outside in the pitch black.
Right. Got it.
So, yeah, which is a good detail to keep in mind. So now by July 2015, Tiffany seemed to be on a great trajectory. I mean, she was recently graduated, a college athlete.
That makes me want cauliflower. That's what I thought.
Gross. I don't like that.
Oh my God. I love cauliflower, especially raw.
All right. We'll circle back to that later. She was also an aspiring criminal justice major. So she talked about maybe like becoming a detective or potentially joining the Air Force, which I'm not sure how those two are connected, but both very
admirable.
Yes, admirable. Yes. So, anyway, so that's where she is in this story when the actual story begins. So now here we are, night of July 12th, 2015, Mays Landing, New Jersey. Okay, so during the afternoon and evening of this day, Tiffany was spending time at her cousin's graduation party, which was taking place right across the street from her family's home.
Where she lived.
Right, in Mays Landing. So it was a very normal, typical get-together. Everybody's happy. People are swimming in the pool, hanging out with relatives. They actually played a little bit of volleyball that day. Everything seemed fine. So now, sometime after 8:30, Tiffany goes back to her house, which, like I said, is just across the street. She's going to shower and change clothes after swimming. Around this time, her mother, Diane, received a call from one of Tiffany's close friends asking if they could come over to talk to Tiffany right away. So, but this was not like a casual social call. This sounded like they needed something. So approximately 9 o'clock rolls around. This friend who had called, accompanied by this friend's mother, they arrive at Tiffany's house. And I guess they were there because they needed to confront Tiffany about something that she had done. They said that she basically stole her friend's debit card without permission and used it to go shopping. So this led to a heated argument in the driveway.
Tiffany was home, though, for this. Like, she participated in
it.
Okay.
So Tiffany at first denied everything. But the friend's mother was upset, and there was a lot of yelling back and forth. And then just after 9 o'clock, to resolve this dispute, basically, Tiffany's mom suggested, because I guess Tiffany's saying, like, I don't have the card. And they're saying, show me. And so Tiffany's mom suggested they all search Tiffany's car for the alleged missing debit card. So during the search, Diane caught Tiffany trying to sneak the card out of the hiding spot she put it in.
Oh my God.
And slip it into her pocket.
I was certain this was going to be like a huge misunderstanding.
Well, you're wrong.
Right.
So essentially, Tiffany was caught basically red-handed here.
By her mother.
Right. She then broke down and admitted that she had used the card. And she tried to explain why she did it. And so from what her mother remembers, she was just her mother was saying, like, look, this was a kid who made a mistake, just like a lapse in judgment. Obviously, it wasn't this, she didn't murder somebody. Like, yeah, okay, she did something bad. So Diane was understandably angry and she lectured Tiffany about it. And by this point, the friend and her mom, having gotten the stolen car back, they left. So Tiffany was upset and embarrassed by everything that had just happened.
And she did it to her friend. Like, obviously you shouldn't do this to anybody, but it's not like she stole it from some kid at school or some rando person who was at the party. Like, to her friend. Mm-hmm. And also, like, at that age, like, I know she's a kid, but also in terms of, like, good judgment, not great judgment, and thinking of consequences. And I know you're still at that age, not going to totally be great at thinking into the future of what are the long-term consequences. But I think she was old enough to appreciate, like, this is going to get found out. Like, they're going to see that I used the card.
Right.
You know?
Well, one would imagine.
Yeah.
So now we're at about 9:30. Diane goes inside briefly to get Tiffany's father so that they could both just talk about what happened with Tiffany. But in the few moments that the parents went inside, Tiffany just kind of disappears. So when they came back outside, like I said, around 9:30, Tiffany was nowhere to be found. She had run off into the night without her phone.
Was she known to be impulsive like this? Like, I feel like this isn't the end of the world, obviously. Also with her age, also how you had commented that she and the mom had the, conflict, teenage stuff going on several years before. I assume it was several years before.
Yeah.
So it's not like that was
a few years, yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't their first rodeo. And I'm just, surprised she had such a strong reaction like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever happened, she just disappeared. But she was seen on... They have like a trail cam for, I guess, like, I don't know what the reason they have it, but like maybe it's to see like the wildlife and stuff. But she was seen on the trail cam walking down the driveway in a t-shirt and shorts and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was, she did walk away.
Right.
Is
like
what I'm trying to
chose
say.
To leave. It wasn't like this kidnapping.
Right, that we know of, at least at that point. So realizing that Tiffany was gone, her parents start searching and they called for help from like the relatives who were of course across the street. So they repeatedly tried calling her cell phone, but she wasn't answering. And as I told you, in fact, then Tiffany had left her phone behind. At first, nobody knew this because everybody was calling. And I guess people were sort of like, hey, like, I hope you're all right. Like, it'll be fine. Don't freak out too much, blah, blah, blah. So, but the dad found the cell phone at the end of the driveway still on their property.
I wonder if she dropped it or if she like purposefully disposed of it.
I don't know.
And what also stinks is I feel like in so many of these cases that we've done, if they're pre-cell phone days, then it's like, oh, you can't ping the phone, you can't tell their location. In this case, it would have been perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, not with her.
Nope-a-roo. So the family organized a quick search party, and Tiffany's two older sisters and one of her uncles, who happened to be a retired state trooper, rushed over to help check out the area, basically. So they searched the woods and the trails around the house on quad bikes. I don't know what that is. That a four-wheeler? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And drove along the local roads. They started shouting her name, and they were just kind of extra worried because, and you had just alluded to this, basically Tiffany never went anywhere in the middle of the night, and she certainly didn't go anywhere without her phone. Like, most people, teenagers especially, mm-hmm. but most people don't just, leave without their phone.
Well, and it was just such an extreme reaction. Like, it just doesn't make sense to what happened, like why she would do this. And it just
I'm just assuming they just got heated and she just walked away. But
yeah.
So now we're at after 11 p.m. and the search is getting a little more like frantic now. So Tiffany's father, like I said, he had already found the cell phone lying at the end of the driveway. He said, though, that something that was odd is that he swore that he had walked by that very spot earlier and didn't see the phone. But then it was just there. So, which that could be a coincidence. Who knows? I mean, Yeah,
I don't think she's hiding in the bushes and then tossed the phone over there yonder.
Right. Just, I don't know. He just made a statement about it. But like I said, now suddenly at 11 o'clock, he's walking around again and there it is. So he just was like, it just felt like somebody had like quietly put it back at the house when they weren't looking. So I don't know. So this was like very troubling to the family, and it raised this possibility that Tiffany, or maybe there was somebody who ended up being with her, had returned near the house briefly while everybody was out searching and happened to put her cell phone there. And like how you were saying, so that you can't get it tracked or something.
Well, that's a good point. It was so spontaneous, this confrontation. What?
I'm only laughing because you suggested the theory 2 minutes ago, and now you're debating your own theory. But
just a normal
you do
day.
you, right?
But like the confrontation was spontaneous. She had no idea when they were going to come and confront her. Yes, she knew when they called and said, hey, we're coming over. So she could have potentially texted somebody. I mean, whatever. She had her phone on her the whole time.
Yes.
I don't know.
So.
And what teenager kind of like travels alone? Especially it sounded like she did have a group of friends. Like she was
Sounds
social.
like it. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, who at that age really is ever kind of doing their own thing?
So another detail to mention here is that phone records later showed that there was a call to Tiffany's phone and it was answered around 10:45, which was an important time to keep in mind because it's about a half an hour before something else happened. So
incoming call and it was answered.
It was answered 10:45 that evening. So, and obviously if the phone was sitting in the bushes or by the driveway at the house, who picked it up? Or did Tiffany pick it up around 10:45 and then did she toss it back into the yard? We don't know, but it's an odd detail that's part of the story.
Right.
So now, around 11:15 p.m., unknown to Tiffany's family, an incident was unfolding a few miles away on the railroad tracks at Galloway Township, New Jersey. A New Jersey transit train traveling from Philadelphia toward Atlantic City was moving along its route when the engineers spotted something or somebody on the tracks ahead. That somebody was Tiffany, and at 11:15 p.m., Tiffany was struck by this train.
Oh my God.
That was traveling 80 miles an hour near mile marker 45 of these tracks. So the impact was, as you can imagine, horrific. And the train's operator later reported that the crew had, when they saw that she was in the tracks, they were sounding the horns and the bells, and they said Tiffany did not move off the tracks. And that there was
she like tied to them? I mean, that's a lot to happen in like an go ahead.
I think she was standing.
Oh, standing.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think she was tied down like an old villain movie.
And like laying.
Right. I think she was just standing there. But I think. So they said she didn't move off the tracks. There was no time to stop. A New Jersey transit train moving at that speed can take over a mile to come to full stop, which is nuts.
Wow.
So obviously, Tiffany was killed instantly when this train hit her. But keep in mind, her family doesn't know this. So now, that happened at 11:15. Now we're at midnight, which would be now July 16th. So midnight, Tiffany's family is still looking for their daughter. They have no idea she was hit by this train. They only knew she was missing. So sometime after 11:30 that evening, Tiffany's uncle, who was the retired police trooper, noticed that there was a lot of police activity down by the railroad crossing not far away from the area. Like, because they were searching. They kept circling wider and wider because they didn't know where she went.
Right.
So, there were flashing lights, emergency responders. So he decided just to check it out, which, anybody would at that point. So he went to investigate. He spoke with officers at the scene, and it was then that he had learned that a pedestrian had been struck by the train, and he had a horrible feeling that it was Tiffany. The description and the circumstances made him suspect it immediately, and a medical examiner on the scene declared the victim dead. As I said, the body was severely disfigured from the impact, making identification kind of difficult on site, which I can't even imagine.
Well, that's what I was thinking, and I thought, I assume in the circumstances of how she left the house, she didn't have identification on her.
I would say not.
So aside from teeth and fingerprints, depending on if they were even available, and oh my God, what a nightmare.
So when Tiffany's uncle alerted police that his niece was missing, authorities put two and two together. So who knows how long it would have taken them to actually identify her, but they kind of had like this
jumping off
big
point
suspicion now. So the family's fear was confirmed because An officer eventually, not long after this, drove up to their house and informed them that Tiffany had been killed by a train. So obviously the family's devastated. They are in shock. Because, I mean, keep in mind, this all happened in
a whirlwind.
Right.
Total whirlwind.
I mean, 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. 3 hours?
And just the oddest circumstances leading up to this. And I want to say, like, oh, this was an accident. Like, how could this not be an accident? But then what the conductor is describing and how, you know, you hear a train when it's coming anyway. Like, I had lived by train tracks for years. I distinctly remember when I would walk the dogs and you would come with me. And, like, when they would ring that.
I hate that shit.
Yes.
When it's close. I like it when it's far away.
Right. And, I mean, it would just be so shrill. And it also, I think, depended on who the conductor was. Like, some were more obnoxious than others. But there was just no mistaking it. So you have that happening. And then they're reporting that she's just looking right at them, making no moves. Like, it does appear very intentional. It sounds...
Right. The only thing I was going to say is, I mean, it was pretty dark. So, I mean, this is what they're thinking they saw.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that in a way of like, oh, well, listen to this next part. I'm just saying this is what they're saying. But it was also midnight, like, you know, not in like a grocery store parking lot, but on train tracks.
And I assume they couldn't do toxicology based off of like the condition of her remains. Like, did anybody say that she was drinking? Not that you would do this. I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, was something going on that she just wasn't lucid?
Well, let's jump back in and see.
Alrighty.
All right. So, as we just said, I mean, the timeline of this was crazy because Tiffany goes from laughing with family and swimming and stuff at 8 p.m. Then there's an argument with her friend and her mother and the friend's mother at 9. She goes missing at 9:30, and 11:15 she's hit by a train and killed instantly. So that is just insane. So going back to this, talking about the train incident itself. So this location was along the New Jersey Transit Atlantic City Rail Line. That's a long title. In a wooded area of Galloway Township. So it was about 4 to 5 miles from the Valiante home. Which I'm thinking, though, if we are to believe that she walked there herself, she is an 18-year-old in amazing shape from what we're hearing.
With her,
you know, super athletic, young. Like, I guess it's not like she was a 90-year-old in a wheelchair. Like, how could she possibly end up there? I mean, she could have.
Well, and also, I'm also doing a lot of. Jeez. No, wait. What did you even just say?
That she had the ability to end up there.
So what I'm thinking is, touching on what you just said, like, her athleticism, like what you would have to do in practices is running laps. Like, so again, I feel like, what you're saying, it's nothing. And also adrenaline wise, like if she was that amped up from that argument and not in her right mind, I feel like that adrenaline can get you going. And
so this is an area that has pretty much no street lights. So very dark, which again is very odd, though, that she would be chilling out in here. Right. And sometime around 11 p.m., like I said, the engineer of this, I guess it was train number 4693, and it had just left Philadelphia earlier that night. So that conductor spotted Tiffany on or very near the tracks ahead. And according to the official reports, Tiffany was standing by the tracks and did not move as the train got closer and closer to her. The crew said that they used the horn and they rang the bell in warning, but she remained standing right where she was. The train could not stop in time, and it struck her at a very high speed. And as I said, the impact was very violent. So the medical examiner later noted that Tiffany's body was so badly damaged that a full autopsy would be basically impossible to perform. She was literally, and this next part, I've heard this so many times with different things, but it always fascinates me. She was literally knocked out of her shoes by the force, which is, I can't even, anyway, that's nuts. That is nuts to me. So keep in mind about her shoes, because there's something interesting about that then. So the scene was so gruesome that initially, as before they kind of had this jumping off point, she was, quote unquote, all but unidentifiable due to the extreme trauma of this. So it was only after police connected the dots with the uncle that they identified her as Tiffany. Yeah.
But we do know, like, we're not saying this is Tiffany because Tiffany went missing. Her uncle's a state trooper. He's a reliable source. Like,
no, we know it's her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
They're not
scientifically, we know it's her.
Sure. Scientifically, yes.
Okay.
So, because also her clothes and stuff.
But I didn't know how much that, like, I'm not asking for, like, a description of what her body looked like at the end of all of this, but I'm just thinking, depending on how bad we're talking, was anything recognizable?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, some of, like, her outfit.
Yeah.
Some of it was salvageable. Like,
and,
they know.
Solidly her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but so far this story is like, I mean, it's tragic and it's maybe a little mysterious, but now it kind of gets.
There's something very I'm like on the edge of my seat on this one. Like, I just am very unsettled by it. I feel like there's this shoe that's about to drop. Bad analogy, but you know.
But there is a creepy detail.
Oh, good.
So Tiffany was found when the train hit her, let me say. She was only wearing her underwear. She had left home, because I told you she was on the camera. So she had left home in shorts, sneakers, and a t-shirt. But at the scene, those items were not there. And the New Jersey Transit Police ended up recovering Tiffany's shirt from the tracks that night. But again, not on her. But they could not find, and this is why I said about like how the medical examiner said like she was pushed out of her shoes. They could not find the sneakers or the jean shorts that she had left the house in. So this means that Tiffany either removed some of the clothing before reaching the tracks or somebody else removed the clothing. So the fact that she was barefoot and partially clothed immediately struck her family and later investigators also as very odd, because obviously people are thinking, why would she take her shoes and pants off in the middle of nowhere at night? Which, of course, there's no clear answer to this. The train's engineer, and there was also a student trainee who was, I was going to say in the cockpit. That's not the right word. In the, whatever that is. What is that? The front of the train.
Not the caboose.
You got that right.
My grandmother has used this term before, so I should know it.
I thought you were going to say you used to be a train conductor.
Well, and I'm also acting like we talk about trains all the time, and we don't. But I know I've heard her say it. Not the engine room.
I was going to say, yeah, the engine, the locomotive.
I was going to say.
But it's not the locomotive either. Whatever it is. The front of the train. They were on the front of the train. I guess the engine car, we'll call it. Whatever, we'll call it that. So imagine his first night as a trainee. I don't know if it was his first night, but so the engineer and the student trainee, they gave statements, like I said, about what they saw. However, these statements changed multiple times in the weeks after the accident, which just gave me chills.
Chill-worthy.
So initially, one of them said that Tiffany, quote unquote, darted out from the woods onto the tracks at the last second, suggesting that it was a sudden, decisive act, which would support potential suicide, like concept.
What if she was being sexually assaulted in the woods and was trying to run away from that?
I don't know. But later that story changed, and the same witness said he only saw her at the very last moment and couldn't tell where she came from. Then there's another retelling, and he claimed that he actually spotted Tiffany. Like I said, this was the original thing I told you. They said that they spotted Tiffany a quarter mile away, standing near the tracks, and they tried to
warn her.
Yes, warn her, do the train, whistle, all that stuff. So obviously these inconsistencies raised some eyebrows. Because if they saw her from a distance standing by the tracks, why didn't the crew try braking earlier than they did?
Well, that was not a mile away, though. So even if they had tried, I still think they would have hit.
But are you saying they would have just kept going full speed ahead?
No, but I'm saying I don't think anyone.
What are you saying?
I'm not thinking that her life could have been spared.
No, but you might want to try to slow down. But
right.
I guess it's good you're not a train conductor then. Like, Talia, is that somebody up there? Yeah, probably. But hey, we're not stopping. All right. Choo choo.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so some people found it odd that they didn't try to stop, but not everybody finds that odd. So I guess trains have a black box just like an airplane does. So that data recorded later, the data that they looked into later revealed something that was interesting. It showed that the train's bell, which was the warning signal that they were using, was never actually rung prior to the impact.
Lied.
Contradicting the operator's original statement that they rang this bell to warn her.
Now that doesn't make sense. Why would they not ring it? And why would they? Well, I see why they lied, why they rang it. I see why they lied that they rang it. But why would they not ring it? That doesn't make sense. Maybe it wasn't working. It was malfunctioning.
I don't think so. But also, I'm thinking, well, did they say they rang it because they felt like, okay, let's say you and I are driving this train. That's not wild. It would be wild, and this is not a good example after what you just disclosed about, I mean, why would you bother to break it all? So let's say me and somebody else are driving a train.
Fine.
You would think one of the two of us should at least be paying attention to what's in front of us. So if they originally said, hey, like, we saw her out there, we rang the bell, but what if they were lying about that in the first place? They didn't see her because they weren't paying attention to what was in front of them.
I agree with you that I think somebody should, yes, absolutely be looking out the freaking window. I think that all the time with trains, though, and I doubt that they do, because I just feel like it's not like you're driving a car where you...
I do understand.
Yes. So I have never believed that they're on the ball watching things.
Okay, but maybe they should be, is what we're saying. Like, I'm sure that's an official rule, and maybe they were trying to just say, like, yeah, we saw her, we were like, hey, get out of the way. But that was all fabricated, right? Yes. Because they weren't looking, is what I'm just saying, for whatever reason. So...
Good call.
Okay, so then, like, you know, maybe in the chaos of what was happening here, like, the crew thought they had sounded it. These two people thought they had sounded it when they hadn't, or perhaps there was an attempt made, but it didn't work. I don't know. But the data from the black box shows that they never actually blew the whistle. So from the start, the New Jersey Transit and law enforcement treated Tiffany's death as a likely suicide, like, basically instantly. You know, they just thought, well, it's a distraught teen. She ran onto the tracks intentionally. So that was their immediate assumption that night. And basically, that's how the medical examiner officially labeled the case, literally within less than a day of the incident. But as we are about to see, a lot of evidence, or lack thereof, I guess, and circumstances don't quite add up neatly with that conclusion. Okay, so now, looking into the investigation a little bit more and the official ruling. So the investigation into Tiffany's death was, I don't know, like, to put it bluntly, pretty damn brief and superficial given the strange circumstances that happened.
Like, they so quickly were like, oh, suicide,
yes, done. Yes. So the New Jersey Transit Police led the inquiry, since it was their train line that this happened on.
Fascinating.
Which, yeah, that is fascinating.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't either. With input from the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office and the Southern Regional Medical Examiner. So the very next day after Tiffany died, authorities announced that it was a suicide and basically just closed the case the next day. So here are some key things that happened, or I guess we could say didn't happen, in the investigation. So the first thing was like I just said, rushed conclusion. So investigators quickly decided Tiffany had taken her own life by jumping in front of the train. This decision was made without conducting a full autopsy or many standard forensic tests. In fact, no autopsy in the traditional sense was done on Tiffany's remains. There was no rape kit taken. Now, this girl was in her underwear, P.S., just so we all know. I mean, we do all know because I said it, but...
When I brought up sexual assault, I was assuming they wouldn't have been able to tell that based off how much of her was left after the incident.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think a rape kit would have been possible, but if it was possible, you think, right, that they would have. Especially
Well, they
that
didn't.
They're claiming she's running out of the woods in one of the accounts.
No DNA analysis of her clothing or belongings, and no thorough psychological evaluation to probe her state of mind, like from her friends and family before ruling it a suicide or not.
Right.
So essentially, they ruled it a suicide just based on the scenario alone within literal hours of it happening and doing no deep forensic evidence at all.
That incoming phone call that she got
Yeah.
when the phone should have been in the driveway, we don't know the phone number or who that was.
I don't think so.
Seems odd for what year that was.
2015, yeah, unless it was an unknown caller.
True.
Another kind of shocking thing is that investigators never really formally interviewed Tiffany's parents or her close friends in the immediate aftermath of this happening. So Tiffany's mother, Diane, later said, quote unquote, "They never asked me about my daughter, not once. They never asked what kind of child she was, if we had problems, nothing." So if they had, they would have heard that Tiffany had no known depression. She was afraid of the dark, and these details were probably they were contradictory to like the idea that she was going to commit suicide in this manner, if at all.
Right.
So it just seems that local police assumed that the circumstances spoke for themselves, and they didn't dig any deeper by talking to anybody who knew Tiffany best. In terms of the evidence found at the scene, at the train scene, police did recover some items. They found Tiffany's t-shirt on some tracks, as mentioned. They also, interestingly, found an axe or a hatchet near the site, and it had red markings on it.
Like blood markings or paint markings?
Possibly either.
But not sure because nobody tested it.
No, that's not true. How dare you come to that conclusion? They lost it before they could test it.
I see. How convenient.
So, yeah, the axe was collected as evidence, but went missing real quick after. So, no tests were done.
Very negligent on so many levels.
Yeah. So, as noted, I said they did not find her shoes, shorts, or I guess she had a headband on that night. So those things were not there. So now a few days later, after this obviously horrific incident happens, Tiffany's mom made a heartbreaking discovery on her own. So she started like walking around a lot, obviously, just whatever, clearing her mind, keeping her body moving. I don't know. But
in this area or just in general was walking?
Just around the house, like around the neighborhood area, like probably that area too, but I don't think she was purely walking there. But while walking along one of the roads about a mile or so from their home, which would have been a few miles from where the crash happened, Diane saw something under a tree, and this turned out to be Tiffany's missing shoes, placed side by side along with her headband. Next to them was a mysterious keychain, the kind that you would get with a rental car, and it did not belong to anybody in the family. There was also a men's sweatshirt that Diane did not recognize. It looked almost like somebody had gathered up Tiffany's belongings and then left them there in a little pile as if to hide them or perhaps to return for them later.
Oh, I just got the chills.
Chill-worthy. Diane immediately called her husband and the police to report this find. This felt like a critical lead because why the hell were these items off to the side of the road, far from where Tiffany was hit, just all neat and tidy?
Especially the hoodie and that key. Like, it's not like it was just her stuff, which I think still should have been tested for DNA, but there were other, somebody else's or other people's items along with hers.
This spot was about 3 miles from the train site, but it would have been roughly along the possible route that she could have taken. So perhaps Tiffany removed her shoes and headband at that location for some reason, or something else happened involving another person, maybe who belonged to those other pieces of, well, a piece of clothing and a key, but
right.
So, unfortunately, though, the follow-up on these items was fumbled pretty badly from what I saw. The keychain that might have been a clue to an unknown person, police happened to misplace it.
I see.
Before it was ever tested for prints or DNA.
They're full of foolishness over there.
Fools.
They're not on the ball, and they don't seem to mind.
As I told you, the axe with the red marks, they lost that one. It somehow vanished from evidence, which I don't understand how that's even possible.
When that much stuff is going missing, it makes me think it's intentional, and then makes me think that it's either somebody in the department who is being covered for, or someone in the department is connected to whoever did something.
But I just feel like you're out there, you're gathering this evidence. Somebody puts it in a bag, right? Because you have to. I mean, an evidence bag.
Correct.
That evidence bag has a number on it. Are you telling me that there's not a log that says, hey, Joe just left with this axe. 20 minutes later, he gets to the police department, and hey, the axe is gone? I mean, it can't be that hard to keep track of these items.
That's why I think it's intentional, because there is a chain of custody. Absolutely.
Right, but that would mean everybody's in on it then. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
It disappears under Joe's watch, and nobody, not even the secretary, says something's not right here.
They're thick as thieves.
Well,
man.
I don't know. Anyway.
Something, I mean.
It's just bizarre.
'Tis.
Also, the shirt that they found, Tiffany's shirt, that was like folded up. So they collected that. They put that into an evidence bag.
And this was in the pile of these belongings.
Yes.
Okay.
Or actually, was her shirt, now I'm trying to remember, was her shirt at the tracks but just not on her?
I thought it was that she took it off, or that who knows what exactly happened, but I didn't think that.
No, wait a second. I just want to see here. So the mom found her shoes, her headband. Okay, so no, the shirt must have been found that night at the train tracks, just a little bit further off. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so not folded up with these other items. But regardless, it's not going to matter because they put it in their bag, but they did not do that properly because it was still wet when they put it in the bag and sealed it, so it molded and just destroyed any potential DNA that they were going to recover from it.
Is this a police department, do you know, that doesn't see much, so this was their first
I don't have any idea.
Or is this...
Well, they're trained police, apparently. I don't know how many,
missing people. Well, they weren't even classifying. Well, obviously
certainly
she wasn't
not
missing, but like initially, I don't know.
It's not exactly the Polar Express going on here. That's a cozy read.
I was just going to say, though, I will say there were parts of the movie, when they made it into a movie,
I do, yeah.
Yeah. That I did find a little spooky. And I don't mean spooky like I'm going to have a nightmare tonight.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much for that to happen.
Children sleeping.
About a nightmare. Was it the tornado? Or no, I know it.
Hoarders.
And also,
I mean, the absurdity of it.
Temptation Island.
Oh, yes. Oh, that was on a break, everyone. But yeah.
Anyway, what was I just saying?
Something about the Polar Express being spooky.
Oh, yes, thank you. That as a child, if it had come out then, I think I would have been a little frightened at scenes.
I don't know. I mean, it's certainly not one of my favorite movies, but it definitely has a very cozy vibe to me. And because trains in general have a cozy vibe to me.
Yeah.
I love the idea of everybody is all together moving as one, but it's like there's different areas. Just the same thing like a cruise. Cruise to me doesn't sound cozy because it's like big and grand.
Circus, yeah.
Okay. But a train sounds super cozy, and I remember from the book, and they also did the scene in the movie of like the train moving through the forest and the wolves like looking at it as it's passing. Shit, that looked cozy.
I will say it was a well done movie based off of a book. Like they did it justice.
You will say that.
I will. I did. I shall.
Okay.
I should. I wanted to see how that would sound. Not well.
Shad?
No. Well, it's not a word.
No, I understand, but isn't that New England shad or New England shid?
Oh my God, we literally just talked about this. How crazy is that?
Is it shad or shid?
Shid.
Shid.
The episode I
should have known that.
That I was just talking about earlier tonight that I was listening to of us that was from months ago.
It was the second episode we ever did.
No,
right?
No. Yes. Correct.
No. Yes, correct.
The shit episode was our second episode ever.
The Lady in the Dunes.
But us talking about the shit, recircling back to shit,
yeah.
was in this episode that I was just listening to.
Wow.
How crazy.
That shit never stops, man. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know about these police, but to answer your question, I don't know how much action they do or don't see. Let's hope they don't see a lot.
Exactly.
So obviously these are serious mishandlings of evidence, and basically these key pieces of physical evidence are just now ruined, and you're never going to know anything, and that's that. So now the toxicology report on Tiffany, they did do one of those, and it comes back clean. No drugs or alcohol in her system. So the medical examiner did examine what he could of the remains, and combined with the scene, he did rule the manner of death as suicide by train impact.
Huh.
Now, it's worth noting again that due to the condition of her body, it would have been really hard to detect any other injuries, for example, like defensive wounds.
Was not a friend.
Right. Well, we don't know.
Friend.
And so he wasn't able to find any of that out. So the medical examiner essentially relied on, once again, just like the scenario of what happened, and the input from these police to make his ruling.
That was literally neglectful on the report. I mean, what information? We lost everything. That's what they contributed.
And
whole
what
lot of nothing.
And what the train people saw.
Which also, there were about 3 various accounts.
You got that
2
right.
People. I mean, what a shame. What a sham. A sham and a shame.
A shameful sham.
And I am not laughing at these circumstances. I want to be clear on that. I'm laughing at these dumbasses.
So the official stance of these police, they stand by their conclusion that Tiffany walked to the tracks and took her own life. They pointed out that a transit cop had told a local paper that Tiffany, quote unquote, walked onto the tracks. She ignored the train engine's horn, which we discovered then from the black box never went off.
Yeah, so she ignored something that didn't exist.
Right, before being struck.
Good.
End quote. From the official point of view, it was cut and dry, although very tragic that this was a case of teen suicide. So given this investigation, or I guess we could say lack thereof, Tiffany's family was left with huge unresolved questions. The police had effectively closed the case within days, but the Valantes felt like that things just didn't add up. So they started pushing for a deeper look almost immediately.
I will still say.
Yeah.
Even if, okay, they lied about the horns, they never went off. Your suspicion, or maybe not your suspicion, but your theory that they weren't paying attention and didn't see her.
Mm-hmm.
As I said earlier, though, living by a train track for years, an active train track, I remember vividly in the dark, because it was like in the woods where this would start out, the light would catch my attention.
Of
the
course.
light on the front of the train. And I could hear like a slight hum and think like, what is that? And then, over time I deduced like, okay, this is the train's coming.
Hey,
like,
you're a sharp cookie.
Well, because it would also sit sometimes.
Nothing gets past you.
For a while, humming and drumming and just sitting there in the woods and not. So all of this to say, And that was when it wasn't going 80 miles per hour. Like sometimes it would, but well, I don't know how the hell fast it was going, but obviously sometimes faster than others. I always knew it was coming and I wasn't on the tracks with it. So all of these things that already don't add up, and whether they're true, well, they're not true with this horn, like I said, and who knows if the men were paying attention. She knew it was there though. Like she still, at the end of the day, I would bet my life on, heard it, saw it, had ample time to get off those tracks.
I believe you.
And didn't. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's what I've been saying this whole time, what the entire case is, but very well put.
That was not nice.
That summary or my comment?
Your comment.
Oh, duh. Do you have anything else before I continue?
I guess I don't. I don't.
No,
I'd love. Okay,
I'd love to.
God forbid. And you didn't say
what?
It's odd. She heard all this and saw it and still didn't get off the tracks. That was a new thought.
I meant more so. Well, that's because if you're going with the suicide theory, then of course she saw all of that. So in my head, I was never. I guess what I'm saying is this.
All right.
You tell me if I'm wrong, but when you just recited all of that again, my thing was that it sounded as if you thought somebody had said, hey, maybe she was just out for a walk and just didn't realize the train was barreling towards her about 10 feet away at night with a huge light on it. And all I'm trying to say is that wasn't a theory of mine, that she didn't hear it or see it or feel the humming and drumming or whatever you were talking about.
Thank you for explaining that, which leads me.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Next question. I didn't think that anyone is out there thinking that
go on, please.
She didn't see it or hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would like to know is, if you are not of the suicide camp, what do you think happened to her? What do you think the circumstances are? What are the theories?
I think the train people are lying and she wasn't just standing there.
But what do you
Then I feel like she was dead on the tracks and they ran over her. Maybe somebody put her there. I don't know.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I doubt somebody could have propped her upright. That
but
I don't
we
see.
Still, like you said, don't know for sure that she was standing.
Right. Well, we don't know because these people could have been making it up. But yes, my only point was that I thought you were just saying, like, well, hey, I mean, these people are saying, like, she could have just been wandering around out there and just didn't happen to hear it. Well, like, I don't think anybody was saying that. But I guess, I don't know, maybe that's a possibility.
But I appreciate this conversation because now I know.
Well, as long as you appreciate it.
What some of the other theories are. And that's where I kept getting stuck. Like, okay, if it is not, well, everything I just said, if it's not suicide,
I know, just everybody
else?
Rewind and just listen again. Save us the time. We haven't the time to do that again.
We don't, right?
No. The sun's down now.
I'm not yawning.
I know yet, but I'm saying the sun has now set.
Shit, it sure is.
All right. If it's okay with you,
yes.
Commandant, may I continue?
Thank you. I think that was a nice chat exploring things.
Mm-hmm. A little tense. All right. So Tiffany's death is one of those cases where the evidence tells conflicting stories. And one of the podcast hosts also does that.
I like to think about all options. I just don't know what they are.
So it's led to a lot of inconsistencies in theory. So let's break down the major points of contention that have been raised by her family and like experts and journalists over the years. So, of course, first, the question is, why would she walk for miles in the dark? Because she was terrified of the dark. So the suicide theory, though, asks us to believe that after this argument she had, and you had said in the beginning, like, yeah, it was an argument, but it wasn't the end of the world argument.
Right.
But
I'm sure she was embarrassed.
Right. So after this argument, she decided to walk, run, whatever, 4 to 5 miles down a rural road, go along train tracks at night while she's scared of the dark, alone, and barefoot because obviously her shoes weren't with her, when she got hit, from what we know. So her family finds this incredibly hard to believe, and frankly, a lot of other people also feel like that. So it's like, yeah, okay, so maybe she did leave in a huff, but why would she go so far on foot instead of going to a friend's house nearby? And
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say, I think I did see somewhere on or listen to on a podcast that her grandmother's house was also very, very close to this.
And she didn't go there.
Because they did go to look there first. So my point is, she had other options than running into the forest in the middle of the night. And if she didn't want to go back to that family party, there was yet a third place that she could have gone to just kind of be by herself. That wasn't a train track in the middle of a rural area. So I don't know. What were you going to say?
It doesn't really matter about like the phone, and who knows if she had it. There were obviously no outgoing calls, just that incoming call. Because I was going to say, what if she quick called somebody? What if there had been a love interest and she called them/her to come get her, or even just a friend, whoever.
Right.
And like, hey, kind of more like right place.
No, I don't even know. I'm not even following.
Right place, right time. Of like, hey, I need to get out of my house. I'm walking. Where are you? Oh, this person happens to be like a block away, and pick them up. They're not because I assume we couldn't tell the condition of her feet after the accident. Because I was going to say,
no, I'm actually blown away in all of that whacked out shit. Yes, actually, that it does come up.
Because I was going to say, like, did her feet, despite being a great athlete, if her feet were not, like, even if you're an outstanding athlete, you typically wear shoes when you play sports. So her feet for walking 5 miles barefoot should show indicators of that.
Yes.
But if she got picked up and was in a vehicle to get to the train tracks, I'm just curious.
Yeah, you sometimes amaze me with that. I was very checked out for the first half of that about a friend and a right time and a right place and a this and a that. But then the shoes, yes, her feet.
On the money.
Her feet. What did you say last time? I'm still sharp enough. Yes. So to your credit, they did examine her feet, and her feet looked completely untouched. Like she was not walking barefoot for even, say, 1 mile versus 3 miles from where her shoes were found. So meaning what you were trying to surmise right there could have happened, that, yes, somebody might have picked her up because her feet were not cut up, they weren't bruised, and she would have been walking through stones, sticks,
rough terrain, yeah,
gravel, like that kind of thing. So good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Were you a barefoot walker?
I'm sorry? No.
As a child?
No.
Outside?
I don't like that. It's not my thing.
I'm very tender-footed. And still to this day, like, my feet hurt.
To this day.
It doesn't take much for them to hurt, but, like, I couldn't do it. They're not hardy. My feet.
I don't even grass. I don't like the texture
I do like
of walking.
Grass
it's not for me.
I do like that, but I get what you're saying though about the feel of that.
Because you never know what you're about to step in.
I would never have thought that, but my mom was stung that way by a bee. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the dogs was also stung like that.
In fact.
I had to pick this yellow jacket out of his toe beans. This thing, he like half smushed it, but it was also still alive.
No, I don't like the sound of any of that.
Oh, it was rough. And it was bad.
Oh. So just to finish up this tiny section here, like you said, however, examinations of her feet were done and there were no cuts, no scrapes, as you would expect to find with somebody who was supposedly trekking all over this rough terrain with no shoes. So it's basically like she was not barefoot either a long time at all, or she was never barefoot walking anywhere, and just things were removed and she was placed or something. So with those missing clothes and items that were not found at the scene but then found later, so Tiffany's shoes, shorts, and headband had been removed, obviously, because they weren't at the train tracks, and that's a big mystery, because if Tiffany was alone and intent on suicide, why would she take off her shoes and shorts and leave them miles away? So some suggest that maybe she was trying to hurt herself earlier. Like, people have speculated maybe she was trying to, like, self-harm, or she was a little bit disoriented. But people are saying that doesn't really fit very well with this story. The neatly placed shoes and headband found later make it look like someone else might have set them there. And then we got the strange keychain and the unknown sweatshirt in the spot, which means that another that another person could have been with Tiffany.
Susanna Tyson.
Cursing up a storm. Ay. That another person could have been there with her or crossed past that night. One might say, right place, right time.
Absolutely. Here.
One theory is that Tiffany might have accepted a ride from someone while she was, like, running away. And that could have even been a stranger or somebody she knew, and something bad happened, so that person might have harmed her, tried to take her belongings, later dumped them. The family strongly suspects foul play, especially believing that a killer attacked Tiffany elsewhere and then dumped or chased her onto the tracks to make it look like a suicide. So in their view, the missing shorts, which were never found, and all the other all the other things.
You betcha sure.
I don't even know what I was saying. All right, we're really going to go back now. So in the family's view, the missing shorts, which were never found at all, and all of these other items are evidence of a struggle or an attempt to hide evidence of an assault. Then, of course, that mysterious axe, which got lost, quote unquote. There's a lot of what ifs around that. And the thing is, it could have nothing to do with the case whatsoever, but we ain't ever going to know.
No, and especially that injury is consistent, I would imagine, with an axe assault. A train hit would completely,
of course,
mask all of that. So,
and I guess the coroner had made a certain wording that said that her clothes had been cut, but when you're hit at that speed, even if they were ripped, it would probably look like a pretty clean cut.
Right.
So I don't know.
I feel terrible for this family, and just like constant questions for the rest of their lives. They're never going to have the answers. And I just, not to say that this can't happen, of course, like weirder shit has gone on in the world, but the time frame being so perfect in such a limited amount of time, limited amount of hours, like short time frame. And for none of this to have, I assume, been planned out. Like her, if she was murdered, it was not premeditated, I would think. The circumstances and the spontaneity of all of this just happened to line up perfectly. It's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what could have, well, all sorts of things could have gone on. If, like, she was picked up by a stranger or even picked up by somebody who knew her. What the hell transpired that quickly that it ended up being that they were killing her? And then, yes, the train was perfect in terms of, you know, a tool to help hide and cover. But it's just, what the heck happened that quickly that she gets killed?
I don't know. I mean, speaking of the train, then of course there's the contradictory train driver statements. So like that, you might as well take them with a grain of salt, because
absolutely,
they're back and forth. Then we add in the fact that, like I said, which is why I made it so apparent in the beginning, that there was no suicide warning signs, because she was planning for the future. She, you know, she had a scholarship. She was from all accounts, pretty happy, which I know people who commit suicide
That's
can
what
be
I was
happy.
just going to say.
But
I don't always put that much stock into those comments.
Okay.
And I think for I'll keep my thoughts to myself.
That's a first.
I don't want to offend anybody. Also a first.
All right.
I think that age group is tricky.
Oh, I do too.
I think parents, especially after a tragedy of any kind, can't fathom that they don't know their child perfectly and don't know everything that's going on with them. And parents don't know everything that's going on.
Right, which we've said many times.
Right. So I feel like I just think that's something that isn't always accurate when parents make those comments. There were no warnings. And I think too, like a lot of people, parents, not parents, just sometimes see what they want to see and can't bear to face
of course
things that are actually going,
I know we've given credit to that. I forget what case it was.
The mother.
I think it was the sister.
Marshall. Oh my God, it was Marshall's sister.
Yes.
You're correct. And she acknowledged,
she's like, I'm open to anything.
As negative as it paints him
Right.
and whatever he was up to. Exactly.
Yes.
And I am not at all in what I just said, trying to be critical of parents, how they handle situations, how anyone grieves, handles their emotions. There is no right or wrong way. I'm not at all trying to criticize, but I just think sometimes there's things that are probably there that
right.
aren't always being.
Right.
Yeah.
The one last, very, I guess, overly, I don't want to say overly, but dramatic theory is that there have been some speculations that, what if after the fight with the friend kind of really got pissed off and decided to come back and attack her or something. Now that is a very, like I said, dramatic theory that some people have, but again, with the fact that there's zero physical evidence left, we're never going to know any of that.
And this was a theory from the public, not
right.
The police ever
yeah.
named her as a suspect.
No,
okay.
That's why I'm saying it was a very overly dramatized, Lifetime movie kind of,
right?
Thing. Yes.
Yeah.
So then, in terms of media coverage and stuff, Tiffany's case might have faded into obscurity after 2015, if not for, once again, the family's relentless fight to keep it in the spotlight. So over the years, it's gained significant media attention and even a national audience through a popular documentary series. Do you know what that is?
No.
I think you might, though. It's
Oh.
a very...
Well, no.
Excuse me?
I was just going to make a guess, but there's no.
No shame in that. Do it.
No, I'm not. Cause
Fine.
I'm wrong because it's fake. It's not a documentary series. Not ID.
I don't know what that is. Unsolved Mysteries.
Stupid. I should have known that.
They covered this case in late 2020.
I want to know what Tiffany looks like.
So if anybody is interested, it's season 3, episode 1, titled Mystery at Mile Marker 45.
That also reminds me. Oh, she is so not what I was imagining. Oh, there's a picture. The one that you talked about. Oh.
What did I talk about?
That picture of her walking.
Oh, yes.
It just, there's nothing scary about it, but it just has such
it's spooky.
an eerie vibe. It really does. She was beautiful. The mile marker comment you just made in the title, it reminds me. Have you ever been not pulled over? Have you ever been broken down and had to call, I don't know, AAA or whatever else there is?
Yeah, but not on a highway.
Okay. Well, I have several times.
Okay.
In the past. And I'll never forget the first time I guess it happened. And they asked what mile marker I was at. And for some reason, where I broke down, I wasn't really near one. And I said, You don't know where I am? Like, you can't, like, I have to get out and walk down the highway to find.
Well, wait, you didn't call 911, did you?
No.
So you just think Fred's auto up the street has a GPS on you? What the hell?
Be myself.
You said back to them, you don't know where I am.
Now that I'm hearing this said back to me, I realize how
sounds quite
idiotic.
entitled.
I also stapled my finger once intentionally.
Well, we don't have time for that.
Happen.
Unfortunately, I feel like a therapist closing out a session. Well, we don't have time for that. But if everybody stays tuned till next time, we'll pick up with Talia putting a staple into her finger. Stay tuned for more screwy adventures with Talia.
This is screwy adventures.
All right.
Oh my God.
Basically, I got to wrap this up, I think. So we're getting very close to the end here, but there was a petition that went around to get Tiffany's case reopened, and it gathered about 12,000 signatures.
Shit.
A former FBI agent spoke about it in 2023, citing the many investigative missteps and urging a fresh look at the case. So the family also offers a $40,000 reward for any information that could shed light on what happened to Tiffany. And they literally have a poster with Tiffany's photo advertising the reward and asking, see something, say something.
This is still like present day being circulated.
I think so. Yeah. So, like I said, there's been social media presence and all of that stuff. The family also maintains a memorial by the train tracks where she died. So there's a cross, flowers, photos, and a bench where people can remember Tiffany. For them, this isn't just morbid curiosity. It is a quiet truth and justice for their daughter. And the mother is quoted in saying, "We've never really grieved our daughter. How could we? We've just been fighting and fighting."
They've never grieved her.
Well,
I mean, torturous.
yes. And their hope is that somebody someday will come forward with a missing piece of information, or that authorities will finally acknowledge the doubts and actually take a second look. But as of now, which is 10 years later, because we are 2025, the case remains officially a suicide, regardless of what many other people believe. So, until somebody comes forth with any information, the death of Tiffany is just going to continue to be a rather unsettling puzzle that I'm sure people will continue to speculate about for a long time.
Oh, yeah. What a horrific case. That poor family. Oh, that poor girl. Rest in peace, Tiffany.
That is the case of Tiffany Valiante.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't even want to ask you to input anything else right now.
But I shall.
What will that be?
Next collab is next week.
Oh, next collab is next week. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought you were going to say, I did some of the paperclip too once.
I used to put them on my fingers like I had long
Well,
nails.
who the hell didn't?
And I did that with black olives.
No, I didn't. I did not do that.
I ate a lot of black olives as a child.
Yes, Talia is correct. Next week, everyone, we will be collaborating with a guest podcast called Chambers of the Occult, and I'm sure it will be a very fun time.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited.
So, all right. Well, on that note, everybody, as always,
Stay safe.
and stay chill.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone. You've just listened to Chillworthy. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode. While we strive to keep our discussions engaging and lighthearted, we also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the real lives and events that are at the heart of these stories.
We try to approach each topic with a sense of curiosity and respect,
fully aware of the impact these events have had on the individuals and their loved ones. Our goal is to honor their memories by keeping their stories alive and shedding light on the mysteries that surround them.
If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, and don't forget to join us on the next episode of Chillworthy.